From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I'm Carla Gonzalez, and this is From the South. The murder of a pregnant woman in the Ecuadorian city of Ibarra has shocked the country. The man first took the woman hostage and then stabbed her in front of dozens of people on Saturday night. Police officers at the scene did not intervene to stop the criminal, and the governor and police chief were fired after the incident. The attacker is believed to have been the woman's boyfriend. This is the second crime against women in less than 2 weeks, after a brutal rape in the capital city of Quito last Sunday. And following recent attacks on women in Ecuador, hundreds of people gathered in Quito to protest against gender violence. Holding banners and chanting, "We want us alive," they condemn the violence against women. They demand equal rights and fair sentences for perpetrators of femicide.
We want to condemn that we live in a machista state with a judicial system that benefits the perpetrators and leaves female victims helpless.
I'm here because it is my responsibility as a woman to speak up for those women who do not have voice, for those women who are not in this world anymore. We do not have to suffer the consequences of an oppressive society. We do not have to pay the price with our lives.
Meanwhile, former President Rafael Correa has criticized President Lenin Moreno's reaction to the latest femicide. After allegations that the murder was committed by a Venezuelan, Moreno announced the formation of brigades to control the legal situation of Venezuelan migrants in Ecuador. But on social media, Correa said the problem will be equally grave if committed by an Ecuadorian. Moreno's words have sparked lynch mob-style persecution of Venezuelans in the city of Ibarra. Citizens took to the streets in Ibarra shouting for Venezuelans to leave the country. The houses of members of the Venezuelan migrant community were targeted and property was taken and burned. The Foreign Minister of Venezuela, Jorge Arreaza, has condemned Ecuador's president for inciting fascist persecution of Venezuelans living in Ecuador. He said that there are hundreds of thousands of Ecuadorians living in Venezuela and that they have never been discriminated. And despite the scenes of horror in Ibarra, anti-gender violence protests are set to continue in the Ecuadorian capital. Demonstrations are planned in the main cities, Quito and Guayaquil, as Ecuador reels from recent attacks against women across the country. In other news, thousands of Colombians have protested against violence and terrorism following a car bomb that killed 21 people in Bogotá. President Iván Duque joined the demonstration along with several members of the government. The protest, labeled March for Our Heroes, took place all across Colombia. Demonstrators condemned the attack on a police academy last Thursday, which also left 68 injured. The government has blamed Colombia's National Liberation Army, or ELN, for the bombing.
I am showing my children, my family, that we are mostly good, that these events cannot be repeated, neither in Colombia nor in any other part of the world. Only with education, with love, with family, with peace, this world can go forward. There are more of us good ones. Terrorists, no more, no more. You also have family. You have dreams, you have hopes. Among all of us, we can change if we work together for a better country.
Nearly 4 days after the attack on the National Police School of Cadets, the National Liberation Army has issued a document establishing the group's position. They stated that the school is used to impart training in Colombia to personnel who will then take part in combat intelligence service, carry out military operations, and actively participate in counterinsurgency. The attacks on the compound would represent a response to military activities carried out by the government of Duque during the recent ceasefire. The communiqué ends by appealing to President Duque to send a delegation back to the negotiation table. The death toll from Mexico's oil pipeline explosion has reached 85, with dozens more severely injured. Smoke is still seen in the air at the site of the accident in the state of Hidalgo as soldiers guard the area. Forensic experts are collecting evidence from the scene to examine samples. The blast occurred Friday night after suspected oil thieves drilled into the pipeline. And families of the missing are still searching for their loved ones. According to locals, there were more than 300 people nearby at the time of the blast.
The figures don't match up. There are a lot of people here. There should be 300 people here, and 100 people are missing. About another 100 are in hospital. Where the gas line was, they started digging and they removed 5 corpses. But we want them to check the whole area around the perimeter because there are a lot of people buried there who supposedly suffocated in the fire. They checked the land and there were people inside.
For 24 hours, since yesterday, we have been looking for him, but we don't have any news and nothing at the hospital. Well, now we are worried about him and the whole family is concerned.
And Mexican authorities continue to investigate the causes of the explosion.
Families are still searching for their missing relatives hours after the explosion that caused a fire in the municipality of Tlahuelilipan in Hidalgo State.
I feel and I want to think that he ran away. I think he was scared because he burned himself badly, so he was shocked and just ran away.
A group of fuel thieves drilled into the Pemex pipeline, which led residents to procure oil illegally.
We understand why people deal. That because people are in need of fuel, they are jobless, and we don't economic assistance.
The situation soon escalated. What followed is said to be one of the worst tragedies in Mexico, with more than 70 dead, dozens wounded, and many still missing.
We need more people to help in investigation. After the tragedy, there are still scattered body parts, hands, fingers, hair at the site of the explosion. We need someone who investigates what happened with the missing ones.
National and federal authorities followed orders immediately to secure the area.
Due to the pressure in the fuel pipeline, the fuel started spilling out. People went near the leakage, maybe hundreds of people. The armed forces tried to warn them because it was not safe, but unfortunately, most of the people did not listen to them.
The incident took place at the same time the government launched a nationwide campaign to end fuel robberies.
I asked the people to stop and not follow the practices of those people who distribute gasoline taken illegally from the pipelines. People cannot support that behavior. We cannot see that as a normal thing. We need to stop them completely.
As part of the government's strategy, 9,000 Army and Marine personnel were deployed to supervise petrol facilities across the country.
Funerals for the victims of the explosion have begun in the central Mexican town of Tlahuelilipan. Families of the victims have called on the government to continue the search for the missing. Returning bodies have been slow because victims were burned beyond recognition. Authorities vowed to hold accountable those responsible for this incident.
We're all very sad, very sad. In fact, there are many missing, many corpses have yet to arrive, to lay them to rest.
Unfortunately, something like this was bound to happen, so that we would have to reflect. I believe that all this leaves us with is very serious thought.
And on Saturday, another oil leak in the Mexican state of Tabasco was reported. The Mexican army was immediately deployed to the area and said the leak was caused by vandalism. Authorities say the situation is under control and that there's no risk of an explosion. The property where fuel tanks were found was also seized, but no one was detained during the operation. We have more stories coming up. We'll be back.
has always subjugated the masses. But who are the actors behind every move? What are their real interests? We analyze every move on Critical Move. Weekdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Groups of Central American migrants continue to cross the Guatemala-Mexico border. Some Honduran migrants say that if possible, they'll stay in Mexico and find work, especially given the odds of reaching the United States. They continue to receive wristbands upon entry and are lining up to register with the Mexican immigration authorities so they can freely travel through the country and possibly find a job.
We are waiting here to get a permit to enter Mexico legally so that we can move about freely, and supposedly they told us that with this permit we will be allowed to find work.
It's an extra opportunity. We're not just here to risk our lives, but with the card, with this idea we can stay here in Mexico for a while and work a bit to save some money and keep pushing on to Tijuana.
Also in Mexico, an indigenous leader has been killed in the state of Chiapas. People marched to protest for the murder of Noé Jiménez Pablo, leader of a campesino regional movement. Jiménez's body was found in a garbage dump, along with the body of an unidentified person. Both had signs of torture. A series of bus accidents left at least 35 people dead in Bolivia over the weekend. In one incident, all 30 passengers escaped when a local bus in Santa Cruz was devoured by fire after a rear tire exploded. Further south, 13 people were killed when a bus fell 100 meters down an embankment on the Tarija-Potosí highway. Police said their initial investigation showed there may have been damage to the bus brakes. The crash that claimed the most lives happened Saturday morning when two buses collided on a winding road in the Bolivian Altiplano, killing 22 people and injuring 37, according to authorities.
I was sleeping. I wasn't aware of anything. I only woke up when the bus was overturned. My foot and my hand were trapped. I don't know anything about my children. I was traveling with them.
At least 2 people were killed in Chile after a 6.7 magnitude earthquake hit the coast of Coquimbo in the north of the country. The quake shook homes, caused landslides, and led authorities to evacuate the area. Luckily, risks of a tsunami were dismissed. But the quake has left over 200,000 people without power. Chile is located on the Pacific Ring of Fire, so it's prone to deadly quakes.
It was a chaotic experience with a lot of panic. There was a very loud noise during the earthquake, and we were there with the children.
Everything is good inside. Inside it's good. Just what it's in here. Nothing else. But with the volume that fell, that is what makes the situation scary.
A nationwide power outage hit Panama just 3 days before the arrival of Pope Francis. The Panamanian electric company FtS said it was caused by a problem in the electric power transmission. Emergency services in Panama had to rescue people trapped on public transport. Water supplies were also affected. The outage has also impacted several regions of Nicaragua and Costa Rica. Bobby Wine, a Ugandan musician turned politician, is in Jamaica to perform at the annual Rebel Salute Reggae Festival. Wine said that reggae has inspired him to fight injustice in his own country. While on stage, he took the opportunity to praise his fellow countrymen for being beautiful, enterprising people. He added that there are still 40 million people living under oppression domination and under dictatorship. Last year, Wine was detained and allegedly tortured during the elections in Uganda. The Democratic Republic of Congo's Constitutional Court has declared opposition leader Felix Tshisekedi winner of the presidential elections. The court ruled against the appeal made by runner-up candidate Martin Fayulu, who asked for a recount on December's elections. The court said Tshisekedi won by a simple majority, allowing him to take over from long-standing President Joseph Kabila. Fayulu has called on people to protest against the verdict.
The Constitutional Court confirmed one more time that it serves the dictatorial person as the Independent National Electoral Commission. I urgently call our people to take care of themselves by organizing peaceful demonstration in the whole national territory to preserve its sovereignty, according to the 64th article of our Constitution.
Let's hear from our correspondent in the DRC, Oscar Epelde, who has more.
The Constitutional Court has overruled the appeal of opposition candidate Martin Fayulu, who alleged fraud in December's presidential elections. Fayulu wanted a recount of votes, but judges found legal grounds to carry it out, even though some electoral observers from the Catholic Church presented ballots they believed to be fraudulent and argued that Martin Fayulu won the presidential race. New elected president Felix Tshisekedi said on Sunday that the court's decision to reject claims on electoral fraud and declare him president was a victory for the entire country. He also slammed foreign interference during the electoral process, saying it's part of an imperialistic attack. But Fayulu has claimed to be the country's only legitimate president and has called the Congolese people to peacefully protest against what he calls a constitutional coup. This poses a risk of keeping the political crisis alive. The Southern African Development Community called upon all Congolese to accept the outcome and consolidate democracy and maintain a peaceful and stable environment following the landmark elections.
That's our correspondent, Oscar Epelde. And the Democratic Republic of Congo is facing other challenges, such as the empowerment of art and artists. This fight represents the citizens' struggle for a better life.
Artist Jonas Bwanga is painting the former Belgian ambassador in his workshop called Calcium in the neighbourhood of Kinshasa. All the visa requests he has made up until now have been denied. In addition, his art workshop needs support. He also painted the former US ambassador.
The unfinished, the cuts, the fragmentation, the realism. The Calcium style is like many modes of style that I have learned to bring through and give strength to in my art. It's a little bit of that. The painting takes the appearance of a painting from the 20th century. There are no hits, but you see the face, the print, the emotions. The searching in my work led me to take my own ideas further and carry out things that no other person could do, not copying, things made by myself. So that's what I call the Calcium style.
His artworks are inspired by the country's social issues. Children need to grow in a family to understand the sense of life. It's not normal that in Kinshasa there are children on the streets.
In this country, people underestimate art. They do not value it in the present moment. You find people that underestimate paintings and that do not know the value or the importance of works of art.
Calcium is also a school.
I had many difficult times in school, with fees and the lack of resources. That's why I decided to drop out of school to come here to my teacher's house so that he could teach me.
It's our passion, it's our destiny, it's our future.
Merlin has also painted his self-portrait.
There is no support. Our country isn't functioning. That means that people do not understand art. Our country has been betrayed from the president governing us through to what we're seeing here. Our art does not have value.
The barriers of the Congolese artists?
It's very important for an artist to travel, to see how art evolves, to cultivate intelligence and knowledge, and to improve their talents. But here, limitations are seen in the conditions in which we work. We work in a cave here, and it's not normal that an artist works in these conditions.
The political reality is in the crosshair, that of a government that does not invest in them, and that of a structure of international power that does not let them travel, sealing them in an iron cage.
Militants have attacked a United Nations military base in Mali. Al-Qaeda claimed responsibility for the attack on the base in Agel Kok, in the north of the country. At least 10 blue helmet soldiers died in the attack and another 25 were injured. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres condemned the violence and said it could be punished under international law. There has been a conflict in Mali between government forces and armed groups since 2012. It was exacerbated by the coup against President Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. Sudanese police have fired tear gas at people protesting against President Omar al-Bashir while they were trying to march on parliament. Protesters reject the president's claims that security forces were not behind the killing of anti-government demonstrators last month. Nationwide protests began after a government decision to triple the price of bread. Andry Rajoelina has been sworn in as Madagascar's new president after a controversial election that included allegations of fraud. The Constitutional Court confirmed his victory in the second round of elections with over 55% of the vote. His rival, Marc Ravalomanana, said the election was fraudulent, but the court dismissed the allegations. Prior to his election as president, Rajoelina headed the country's interim government from 2009 to 2013. We're taking one last break, but stay with us.
Telesur brings you special interviews with social and political personalities. Monday, from Washington. Tuesday, from Mexico. Wednesday, from Caracas. Thursday, from Quito. Friday, from Havana. Analysis about our continent's reality. Weekdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Around 170 migrants are missing in the Mediterranean Sea in two separate incidents this month. Migrants are feared dead after a dinghy sank off Libya and another boat capsized in Morocco, according to non-governmental organization Caminando Fronteras. Following the news, Italy's Interior Minister Matteo Salvini, who closed Italian ports to humanitarian boats, said they will remain closed to deter human traffickers.
Now perhaps professors, intellectuals, associations, a cardinal, 6,000 broadcasters will say that we must open the ports, hug migrants and welcome migrants. No, no and no, because the latest shipwreck is proof that if you reopen ports, if you allow everyone to wander in the Mediterranean Sea regardless the laws of our countries, more people will die. Then I say no, no and no. I repeat, open hearts for those who really flee from war, but close ports for NGOs, human traffickers and everyone else.
Syrian air defense has repelled an Israeli missile attack in the country's southern region. According to Damascus military source, the aerial incursion did not achieve its objectives. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the attack is part of a permanent policy to strike Iranian positions in Syria. Iran has backed Syrian President Bashar al-Assad during the country's ongoing civil war. And thousands of Syrians have marched through the streets of the city of Qamishli, protesting against the creation of a security zone in northern Syria. The demonstrators waved flags and posters condemning the action proposed by the Turkish government on January 14. The security zone establishes 30 kilometers of security along the Turkish-Syrian border with the aim of facing the Kurdish militia in Syria. Reports suggest the idea was suggested by US President Donald Trump. A Syrian spokesman for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs denounced the move as a violation of the territory. The Arab Summit for Economy and Social Development kicked off in Lebanon on Friday, but without Syria. That's despite the fact that Arab countries are looking to resume relations with the Syrian government in Damascus.
In the Syrian parliament, a delegation from Jordan, just like numerous Arab delegations before them, has shown great interest in improving relations with Syria. They have offered to invest in its tattered economy and rebuild the war-torn country.
I came to deliver an official message from our government, from our leaders, His Majesty King Abdullah, and His Excellency President Bashar al-Assad. They wish all the good things for Syria, and we are willing to cooperate with the country, so it can return to the way it was before and even stronger. We hope it will soon recover to its former glory.
The reopening of the Naseb border crossing has benefited Jordan more than Syria. It has also positively impacted Lebanon, which is likely to help restore relations between Arab nations and Syria. Jordan has already sent several delegations. Syrians, unions, and the Arab public at large have criticized the Arab League decision not to invite Syria.
They were wrong not to take the reality of the situation in Syria into consideration and invite the country to participate in the summit. It's an event that mainly focuses on the reconstruction of Syria, so if Syria doesn't participate, then it surely won't be a success.
The summit mainly revolves around rebuilding Syria, yet a Syrian delegation is absent. However, the Syrian government insists it's willing to cooperate with all the Arabs and is ready to discuss their position towards Damascus.
And with that, we come to the end of this news brief. But you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesturenglish.net. For our viewers in Africa, we are on Starsat channel 461 in South Africa and 539 in Nigeria. And we're on social media as well. For Telesur English, I'm Carla Gonzalez. Thank you for watching.